We welcome the author of the New York Times bestseller Duplicity, former Speaker of the House, Fox News contributor, Newt Gingrich. You know, I saw something on Twitter. I love social media. I know you do. You've been way ahead of the curve on social media. And it just is, it's been circulating. It goes, for example, he's going to build the wall, have legal immigration, end sanctuary cities, immediately deport criminal illegal aliens, create safe zones in Syria, take care of vets, support police, end Common Core, fix failing schools, negotiate better trade deals, bring back good American jobs, energy independence, balance the budget, fix a broken political system, rebuild infrastructure, restore America's military, reduce taxes on lower and middle class Americans, protect the Second Amendment, repeal and replace Obamacare, women's health issues. He's pro-life. That kind of sums up the guy I interviewed all these times over these many months. Last night we were talking about this, and I agree with your analysis. He's not a traditional conservative. Is there any one of those positions that's not conservative, though?
Well, again, I think you can argue about, for example, building the wall, whether that's conservative or not. It's certainly popular. But I would make a deeper point that the news media totally misses. You just gave a list of the most substantive candidate I can remember who has taken item after item after item. I mean, when people say he doesn't stand for any issues, I wonder, what planet they're on. This is a guy who's gone out and has told us about a tremendous range of issues, the direction he would go in. And I think that in that sense, he's been a very substance-oriented candidate. Some of the substance terrifies Washington, but frankly, that's good. Washington needs to be terrified a little bit.
Well, why is Washington so terrified? Can you psychoanalyze that?
Well, sure. He represents the end of their world. Look, Washington today is this bureaucratic, lobbyist system that is trying to impose left-wing values on the country. Look what EPA is trying to do to the Navajo Nation, for example, in terms of their large electric generating capability. Look at what Obama's done to the entire coal industry. Look at what you see happening again and again with court decisions that favor radical values. So you have this huge industry in Washington of people who try to dictate to the rest of us how we should think, how we should act, what we should do. And they are faced with a candidate who represents the will of the American people, who's prepared to have, you can think of Take Back Washington as the subset of Make America Great Again. And I think that if you're Washington, that kind of scares you.
So what's happened is, and it's really true, because Republicans have allowed the entire Obama agenda to pass. They never had the courage that you had as Speaker to let the government shut down. If I recall, you did it twice. And they wanted it because they wanted to maintain power. They were afraid that they were going to get blamed, so they were timid. And pretty much everything Obama wanted, Obama got with very little opposition. So there really isn't too much of a difference, is there, between the Republicans in D.C. and Democrats in D.C.? And isn't that what the voters have been saying?
No, look, there's a huge difference between individual Republicans. I mean, if you looked at the House Republicans and the Senate Republicans, they're dramatically more conservative. But they have not been effective in taking on Obama and in taking on the elite news media. What makes Trump so fascinating is he's reached right past the elite media, and he's communicated with the American people. And he's beginning to create a Trump movement and a sort of Trumpism as a philosophy. And if this thing begins to cohere this summer, and by the time we get to Cleveland, you can begin to really sense, here's how we're going to deal with the country for the next 8 years. This could become a historic turning point, because it would mean, as you pointed out in several of your interviews, he's prepared basically to dismantle the Washington education bureaucracy and send it back to the states.
Yeah.
My guess is he would dismantle the Washington Medicaid bureaucracy and send it back to the states. This is a guy who I think will be very directly engaged in reshaping the federal government in ways that will make Washington very uncomfortable.
You know, last question, and I asked you this before, because the distrust level is so high right now, I always thought, and I watched up close and personal, when you ran on a contract, you put your word, your promises on a solemn vow, what you're going to do. I like that idea again. I think to build up trust, to be held accountable for promises, it could help run a national party. You have senators and congressmen run on the same platform. I think many of the issues everyone would agree on. These are 80-20 issues, many of them. Good idea, bad idea?
I think they ought to have a fairly broad platform in the summer, and then I think they should pick maybe 10 big things, and those 10 big things, and that's got to be negotiated. It can't be dictated by Trump. He's got to actually have the Senate and the House candidates with him talking it through. But they could pick 10 of them and really create a vivid example and then say, look, you elect us, and by Easter of 2017, this is what we're going to get done.
Well, all right, Mr. Speaker, thanks so much for being with us. Appreciate it.
Good to be with you.